Remember, if you're in the back, just ask Steve, and Steve can then ask Dan. Dan, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Hopefully some of you will be looking at the title and thinking that is quite clickbaity. But if you don't think that, hopefully by the end of this presentation I'll convince you that yes, they do really matter. So I'm just going to go over how diets work and the fundamentals behind how we lose body fat. So my background, just to give you a little bit of an overview, is I used to work in professional football. I was a sports scientist and I went to university and did 2 degrees, did all the boring academia stuff, thought I'd go and work with athletes, so I quit football to do that. And I'm now a physique coach at Team Box. And I practice what I preach a little bit, so I've done a couple of photo shoots, I've been on stage, and I think that's quite an important factor. Being a coach, I think it's very important to have gone through what I'm going to talk about today, because otherwise how am I really going to show you that I know what I know and that it is actually applicable. So yeah, I've done a couple of photo shoots and like I said, off season at the moment, so I don't look like that, unfortunately. But next year, hopefully, I'll look even better. So just a quick one before I get started. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at DanTeamBox. Tag away, take some pictures, whatever you want, have a look. And like I said, hopefully in the next 40 minutes, I'll be able to convince you that calories do really matter, and I'm going to explain to you how every single diet in the world works. There's a little bit of proof. All of these clients have followed the same principles that I'm going to take you through right now. And yes, I did work at Hull City and we got promoted to the Premier League. Again, just to show you I know what I'm doing. So I can imagine there's quite a few people in here who've tried a diet before and been unsuccessful. So where is Mr. Box? Anyone who's been unsuccessful on a diet, I want you to put your hand up right now. And I want someone to tell me why that was the case. Anyone, just pick anyone. They're all going to be the same, hopefully. Hello? There's one there. Why are you going to be successful? Oh, yeah, always hungry, yeah. We all feel that pain when we want a pizza. Another one. Yeah, so it needs to be sustainable, right? Like, you can't keep going on, off, right? So they're basically some of the principles behind why diets fail. Like, why you go on a 5-2 diet and you go off it again. There's a reason you do that. And the reason is, I'm going to go into it as we go through. Otherwise, that's not really fair, you can get up and leave. So I'm going to propose today that you didn't actually fail and that your diet failed you because it didn't go over these fundamental principles that I'm going to talk about. A lot of diets that we see in the public domain are just methods of fat loss. No one actually teaches you the principles behind that and why you were or were not successful. And I'm going to go over that and break it down for you. And then I'm going to talk about the Team Box way. How we do things, how that we're not just on a diet, and how that we plan for the future, we plan for your progress, and we take you through this lifelong journey that is sustainable. So when we lose body fat or we lose weight, the fundamental principle is calories in versus calories out. And that is undebatable, it's fact. The only problem comes when people confuse the calories in and the calories out. They assume they always have to cut the calories in. They always think, I have to eat less, eat less, eat less, eat less, eat less. And what people fail to understand is that you can actually move more and eat the same amount of food and lose weight. But not only that, how these factors can change as you go through a diet. So as a rough idea, there's some numbers up there to give you an idea of where these kind of diets and where these calories in, calories out are broken down. So for East, I've gone with some very basic maths. So on a 2,000 calorie diet, that's probably roughly a breakdown of what might happen. An average female, say, that I might work with, they'll be on 2,000 calories and they're going to maintain their weight. And these things on the side here, calories out, these 4 things are made up of basic metabolic rates, so that's the amount of calories your body burns just living and surviving. You've got NEAT, which stands for non-exercise activity. So basically anything that I do to move around, like I'm doing now, I'm moving around, I'm walking up and down, the steps I take, that's NEAT. Then I have EAT, which is exercise activity thermogenesis, so that's the calories I burn when I exercise, so that will include cardio and weight training. And then you've got TEF at the top, which is the thermic effect of food, which the calories are required to break down the food that I eat. And different macronutrients have different amounts that they contribute to thermic effect of food. So what happens when you go on a diet is that you become a health-seeking individual. So that means that you start going, right, I'm going to walk to the shops instead of drive. I'm going to start making sure that I go and, when I pick up my daughter, I'm going to play with her in the park for 20 minutes instead of taking her straight home. It means that instead of being at work and not moving, I'm going to take breaks every hour and go for a walk around the block. That's what, when you become a health-seeking individual, these three factors go up. And when you go on a diet, no one describes that fact to you. They all just assume you're going to do it, and they probably bank on the fact you're going to do that as well. And I'm going to explain how that is how you can eat more food and lose weight. So the common tagline, you've seen it all over billboards, eat more, exercise less. It's true, you can do it. You can actually eat more calories and lose weight. And I'm going to show you how that happens. So, at maintenance, 2,000 calories in, 2,000 calories out, you don't change weight. What most diets tend to do is they'll cut down on your carbs and alcohol. That's a pretty standard diet you go on, right? What then happens is you eat more protein, you eat more fat, and you eat more fiber. Now, protein and fiber contribute quite significantly to the thermic effect of food. So it takes more calories for our body to process those macronutrients and the fiber than it does carbohydrate, for example. So you've eaten more protein, you've eaten more fiber, you're now on this diet, you're a health-seeking individual. What happens is your NEAT and your TEF and your exercise intensity all increase. So you just start moving more. You say to yourself, I'm going to be more active, I'm going to make smart decisions, and I'm going to stick to this. And initially, for the first 4 weeks of your diet, it goes really well. You're in a calorie deficit, but you don't know it because you're just following the plan. And at the end of the day, you're going, right, I'm doing really well, 4 weeks in, I've lost 2 kilos, I'm feeling great. Then you get a bit sloppy. Then you start going, right, well, I'm on this diet, I'm going to stop going and walking to the shops because you know what, I've done it for 4 weeks now, I'm feeling all right, I've lost this weight, and you get sloppy. That's what happens, we all do it. And then what happens is you're back at calorie maintenance again. But again, you don't know it because your diet hasn't told you why you've lost weight. You're just losing the weight, you have no idea why, and you assume it's because of the calories in. You think, right, I'm on this diet now, I've cut my carbs down, I'm drinking less alcohol, that's my diet, I'm eating clean, right? But that diet hasn't explained to you anything about calories out, and that's probably why you're sat there going, why am I not losing weight? As an example, I'll go over some common diets and how they achieve a calorie deficit without you even knowing, and how they do work and how they don't work. So, clean eating is an extremely common. Who's ever been a clean eater? Me. Everyone's been a clean eater, right? What happens with clean eating is you spend the first 5 days of the week doing really, really well, and you're like, I'm really good at this, but I've got my friend's birthday party on Saturday night, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be really good. And even on Friday, I'm even going to miss my special treats, and I'm going to save it all for the weekend. You have a big blowout on Saturday night, you go out for some beers and some pizza, like we did last night. I'm not on a diet, so it's all right. And then on Sunday, you have a bit of a hangover, you feel sorry for yourself, you have a bacon sandwich, you go out for some nice lunch, and all of a sudden, you've eradicated your whole calorie deficit over the course of the week by having that cheat meal, the cheat weekend, whatever it is. So it does work if you can stick to it for long periods of time because you're in a calorie deficit. And the reason that you're usually in a calorie deficit when you're a clean eater is that you are restricted on the foods you can choose, just naturally, you can't eat certain foods. You probably might go gluten or dairy free. It's nothing to do with the gluten or dairy, it's because you've cut down the calories you're eating and you're very restricted, you can't eat a lot of fast foods, convenient foods. You're naturally going to reduce your carb intake, which is going to reduce the amount of weight you hold in your body and your muscles, for example, water weight. You've increased your protein intake, which again is going to increase that thermic effect of feeding and keep you feeling fuller for longer. But more importantly, you become health-seeking. You become someone who actively seeks out health at every opportunity. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't educate you about calories in, calories out. It doesn't educate you and empower you and give you the knowledge you need to succeed in the long run. It just tells you to eat cleaner. Eat cleaner, like what's that? I don't even know how you would do that. But that's when a clean eating diet might start going, actually, maybe at the start it says you can eat gluten, you can eat dairy, but then it'll say, right, cut those out. So you cut those out and you might lose a little bit more weight. And again, it's because you've cut your calorie intake. It's nothing to do with dairy being a problem for you, unless you're lactose intolerant, or with gluten unless you're celiac, but that's a totally different talk that I'm not going to go into. And the same with like the 5-2 diet, for example. You can be really good on those 2 days and under-eat, but if the other days you have no idea what you're doing in terms of your food, it really isn't very useful to you because you've stuck to the diet, you've stuck to the plan. What do you do when weight loss stalls? It doesn't have an answer for it. And again, the same issues here, what it doesn't do is the same for all of them pretty much. But it just drastically reduces your calories. You might feel a bit better, but at the end of the day, there will come a point where this will stall and you won't lose any more weight. Keto, again, very, very similar. Just cut out carbs. Very, very easy. Again, for 4 weeks, what happens when you go to your mate's birthday party, he's got cake there, you want some, you can't have any. It's not very sustainable, and quite frankly, it's not useful for the majority of people. It's too restrictive, it's not sustainable, and there's no point in putting yourself through it because there's no real added benefits to performance or weight loss. Vegans, again, if you go vegan for an ethical reason, that's absolutely fine, but if you're doing it because you think it's healthier or you think it's a way of losing weight, again, it just restricts your food choices. So it's going to reduce your calorie intake naturally. And again, I come back to it, but there's no empowerment, there's no education, there's no understanding of why things have failed, because you can get fat being a vegan. It can happen. So it's not necessarily the great choice for weight loss. So I'm going to go briefly onto the Team Box way and how we go through a diet, how we set up someone's nutrition plan, but more importantly, why our clients are with us for months and years on years is because we plan things for them and we show them how they can achieve long-term results. So essentially, everything I've told you so far has been, we don't know. We don't know the numbers, we don't know calories in, we don't know calories out. So that's what we do, is we track that data. We are, by definition, scientists. We look at research, we look at academia. My background is from looking at crunching numbers all day long. Footballers running X amount of distance in X amount of weeks, are they getting fitter, etc. It's the same with all of us in our food intake and our calorie output. So like, we use the science, but we're not all just boffins sat in a lab, very, very boring lives. We all compete on stage, we've all been doing photo shoots, we all get lean, we all do what you all want to do. So we have the experience, we have the science, and we also understand that we are all very, very individual in our lives, and that we all have very different jobs, very different lifestyles. We have families, some of us don't, and all that sort of stuff. That's very, very important to you as individuals, that your 5-2 diet book will not tell you how to work around. I can tell you how to work around your life with an 18-month-old daughter. It's not impossible. It's harder, of course, but I can do that. Some of the other coaches may not be able to do that because they haven't got experience, but as a team, we all have experience in different areas. So, when we look at our diets, we look at our priorities, the problem that a lot of people have is they shoot for the top, and they go, right, I'm going to time my meals perfectly, I'm going to make sure that I have my protein shake 30 minutes after my workout, I'm going to make sure that I do my fasted cardio, and they go towards the timing element of nutrition, and they don't understand that actually over the course of the week, what you eat is the most important factor of making sure that you lose body fat. And as you go up that pyramid, things become a little bit more important, but you have to get the base sorted first before you can move on. It's what we do with a lot of our clients, is we have to make sure that they get level 1 right before they even consider going up to level 3 or 4. So this is an example of the data that we collect for our clients. Now, some of these guys in the audience will recognize these, probably shudder as they're looking at it, some of them. But essentially what this is just tracking our client data. So we've got our calories in here, and we've got our calories out there. So we give our clients a weekly energy intake. They have to kind of be roughly around. So this client of mine, Gemma, she's not here today, so she won't mind, but she's eating around 12,000 calories a week. I don't actually put that much of any kind of boundaries on how she does that. I give her some advice and say, look, I think for you, having 4 slightly higher calorie days and 3 slightly lower is probably best because you train 4 times a week. But ultimately, it's up to her. She can use 3,000 calories on a day if she wants to. She then has to budget the rest of her week accordingly. But my point about this data is that without this side here, without any of this data here, that is totally irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything because her calories in are a direct reflection of her calories out. So for half of you in here, eating 1,800 calories could be, you could get leaner doing that, but half of you could get fatter. We don't know because we don't have half the equation. And this is the problem that a lot of diets, and this is the reason a lot of diets fail people, is they concentrate on one or the other. So some diets will go, just move more, exercise more, do loads more activity, but you're going to get hungrier. So you're going to want to eat more food. So you naturally eat more food and you go, well, I'm not losing weight. Why am I not losing weight? And some diets will focus purely on calories in. And they'll say, right, you have to make sure that you do your 5-2 diet, so you restrict your calories. But there's no guidance then on what happens when things stall and maybe increasing your calories out. So Gemma here's got her guidance and she's got her numbers to hit. So I've roughly said to her that on rest days, 160 grams of protein, 120 grams of carbs, 50 grams of fat. But what you'll notice on here is that she hasn't actually hit that on one single day. We're not expecting people to be perfect with the numbers. There's nothing magic about those individual numbers. What's magic is the rough number at the end of the week needs to be in a rough ballpark figure. And she's got it pretty much bang on. So at the end of the week here, she's got 12,500 calories. She's 500 calories over. Not a big deal with 12,000 calories is the target. But the most important thing here is that I've got her calories out. Like I know roughly how many calories she's expending. So she's got her steps written down there. She's doing about 18,000 steps on a high day, averaging 15,000. I know how much cardio she's doing a day on average, and I know when she's training. So again, I can see how many sessions a week she's getting in, how many hours she's training. And that gives me that information to go, right, actually look, she's losing weight. Yes, she's around the calories about the right mark. But more importantly, I like to look back and go, right, she's not moving as much as she was before. That's why she's not losing weight. And with weight, we always take the average. We never take the max or the minimum over the course of the week because females in particular fluctuate massively with their weight, certain times of the month, things like that. But males do it as well. And we take the average because if we just took the highest or just took the lowest, it's not consistent data. We don't really know what we're looking at. So on average, Gemma's lost 0.5 kilos each week, which for me as a coach is bang on. I'm happy with that. I'm going, right, carry on as you are. You're doing really, really well. But if I was to just look at certain time points in this, if I was to just take random time points, and I was to say, right, I'm going to take this one here, just weigh in on a Monday, for example, 64.6 to 64, that's okay, not too bad. I'm happy with that again. But if I took, for example, this one here on Wednesday, she's on her cycle, 64.5, and I took the next Wednesday, 63.7, I'm going to go, actually, if that's too big of a weight loss, we actually might increase calories because you don't need to be in that much of a deficit, there's no point. If I was to just take those single time points, then Gemma's not going to like me because Gemma's actually going to be getting slightly fatter because I don't take into account that average over the week. And that's why taking an average is very, very important, which is why having data and using science is very, very useful. Because with just those high weights or those low weights, it doesn't actually mean anything. So this is how we kind of track energy expenditure, and I'm going to go into how we track that because obviously some elements of it we can't track. So you've got basic metabolic rate, and basic metabolic rate is quite predictable. Like we're not that unique. The science has shown that actually the biggest variances in most people's calories out is actually their NEAT and their energy from exercise. Basic metabolic rate doesn't change all that much unless you're in a severe diet, and even then the changes are pretty minimal. So we track NEAT, so non-exercise activity like we talked about. We use step counters, so you have a Fitbit on, we use that to track things very, very simply. I haven't got one at the moment because I'm in off season, just trying to gain weight unsuccessfully, but there we go. We also track their exercise activity. So when you train and when you're on a diet, training gets more difficult because you don't have as much available energy. So I like to use tracking load lifted in the gym so we can keep an eye on someone's loads of lifting in the gym, because if they're lifting less weight in the gym consistently week on week on week, I know that their exercise intensity is probably pretty low and they're not actually using as many calories in those sessions as they used to be. So I need to address that and go, right, maybe I need to either increase some calories around training to make sure that they increase that intensity, or I might have to say to them, right, we're going to drop your training down from 4 to 3 a week so that we can maintain that intensity, because that's also an important factor. And the other thing I like is I just started doing with people sometimes who aren't maybe in prep is doing this 1 to 10 tiredness scale. It's right, how fatigued are you this week? Because again, unless you're in prep, unless you're competing or you're on a photo shoot, you don't want to constantly feel tired all the time on a diet, or hungry or lethargic. You've got a life to live, you need to have these breaks along the way. So that's that. And again, the thermic effect of feeding is quite hard to track. but I know if you're on a pretty sustainable amount of protein and you're pretty consistent with it, it's probably going to be pretty similar. So, in terms of tracking data, some people will say, oh, it's a bit unnecessary, oh, I can't be bothered with all this tracking the data. Initially, when you start doing it, it can take a little bit longer to do. But with most of my clients now, it'll take them 5 minutes a day to input all that data, and it enables me to do my job. So the reason we track that data is that individual data points mean absolutely nothing without all those other data points around them. Because we have to look at the bigger picture. We can't just look at a snapshot on a Wednesday or a Monday. We have to know over the course of the week what's happening. And you can't make informed decisions with half of that equation. It's just useless. Just knowing your calories in is useless unless you know roughly your calories out. And knowing your calories out is useless without knowing your calories in. Just dropping calories will not work if you do not have an appreciation for calories out. Because what tends to happen is you reduce your calories in and you just stop moving. You get tired, you don't get up and walk to the shops, you drive to the shops, you don't move your arms around as much anymore, your training intensity goes down, and actually your calories out just drop a little bit. So without tracking that information, without tracking that data, you might drop your calories and not see any weight move, and you're thinking to yourself, I've got metabolic damage. No, you haven't, you're just not moving. And likewise, just upping your cardio or exercise amount won't help unless you're tracking your calorie intake, because what will happen is your exercise will go up and you'll just start wanting to eat more food because you're hungrier. Prime example, with most diets, you get hungry. You have to kind of deal with it, but it's easier to deal with when you know you're tracking all the variables and you know you've got it covered. So that is how weight gain happens. You eat more than you expend. This is the fundamental principle. Weight loss, you expend more than you intake. That is the principle of fat loss. I've explained to you there how most diets work and how a lot of them do indeed work, but how for most people they fail, and it's because they do not take into account both sides of this equation. Hopefully, I managed to convince you that. We all follow this approach, the whole team, and we practice what we preach a little bit. So we do this, we track all that data, we track all our information. We've got spreadsheets going back months, going back years of all this information so that we can actually make the best decision for our clients, but also for us. We're geeks ourselves, we love this shit, we love it. I want to track all my data, I want to know what I'm doing, I want to know whether I'm on optimal amount of weight loss or if it's too much or too little. I want to know all of this information. So, if you want to find out more about Team Box, you can head over to our website, you can download our ebook, and I've just realised I forgot to put in the amazing link that we've got, which I can put up in a bit.
Yeah, so guys, we have a link, and essentially, if you head over to our website, I'll be able to see anyone who downloads our ebook. So we have at the bottom of our website, we have a free section. You can download your ebook. That ebook, or guide basically, will tell you exactly how you set up your own calories, macronutrients, the information behind it. And what I will do for anyone that signs up today, I'll assume that you were at this talk with Dan, and I will send you these slides. Okay, so I will compile those just to make it a little bit easier for you to get the content.
The website was the same website / BP17. So if you go onto teambox.co.uk and just make a note on your phone, just / BP17, and you can go on there and you can download all the slides. So if you want them.
You leave your email address, you click which ones you want, and then I'll email you those in the week, along with the book and any other slides you want from any of our presentations that we've had over the weekend. Does anyone have any questions? I'm happy to ask the first question. You mentioned about weight changes, Dan. So as we know, weight doesn't always go down the same way every single day of his life. What sort of simple things can actually influence someone's weight so if they are stepping on the scales, they don't get too anxious about what that result's going to be? What sort of simple things manipulate that number?
So yeah, a lot of clients will dread sometimes seeing the weight go up. And they don't like the fact they have to do it weekly for us. Some of them like, oh, can I just do it once a week? And I'm quite insistent that I say no, because I need to see the fluctuation. So you can, for example, drink a litre of water and get on the scales and be nearly a kilo heavier. And that's just water, that's nothing, that's you not getting fatter. But not only that, in terms of your overall diet, you could have a high carb day. Straight away, if you have extra carbs that day, Your body stores that as glycogen in the muscle, stores with it some water. You could be half a kilo heavier, but have gained 0 fat. But again, I know that. So if you put it down, I know. If you don't write that down, and I just have the weight, I have no idea if you've eaten 4,000 calories, or if actually you just had a few extra carbs, and that's what it is. Likewise, you could have quite a lot of sodium in your one meal before you go to bed. The next day you might wake up, and your weight could be through the roof, by a kilo potentially some days. And that's just because you've retained water, because you've eaten a lot of salt. It's nothing to do with body fat gain. But I know as a coach, if I have one data point that's off by a kilo, and the next day it comes back down a kilo, I literally probably just scratch it off. Because again, with science, what happens is, you tend to take the highest and lowest potentially, and you could almost scrap it and still get a very good average. So if I see an anomaly and it's like, that's not a true reflection of this person, I often won't even consider it. I won't take it into consideration. So if my weight on one day is 80 kilos, and then the next day it's 81, but for the rest of that week I was at 80, I'm not going to panic that I'm 81, it's just one point of data. If I was 80, then 81, then 81, then 81, then 82, then 82, I'm like, right, it's going up significantly over time. But even that, I'm not going to panic in a week. If it's going over 2 weeks, I might go, actually, I need to change something. But a lot of people, when they diet with quite a large deficit, they can actually get water retention, and they might not see the scales change, but they might actually be losing body fat, which is another aspect, again, and why we ask all our clients for progress pictures every week, is that your weight might not change, but if I've seen you get leaner on the pictures, I'm not just going to cut calories. Whereas a lot of coaches might just go, you've not lost weight this week, cut calories. If you're looking leaner, why am I going to drop your calories? I just know potentially you're holding a bit of water. If you're a female, it could be because of your menstrual cycle. Why would you change anything?
Does anyone else have any questions?
Have I done such a good talk? There's no questions. No, there's one over there. There's one over there.
So can you be in a calorie deficit without damaging your metabolism?
So yeah, your metabolism, like I mentioned, isn't actually very changeable. It will slow down slightly when you go into a severe diet for prolonged periods of time, but it's reversible. It doesn't ever stay there. Once you start eating more food and move around again, your body will naturally start utilizing more calories. But like I referred to on the slides, is that actually what happens is that probably stays about the same. So you hear stories of some people say, I only eat 1,000 calories a day and I can't lose weight. Chances are probably their BMR is around 900 calories and actually they're just not moving at all, or they think they are. So actually they're the three factors that massively slow down. Your BMR doesn't actually change all that much, and the term metabolic damage is hugely up for debate at this precise moment in time, I would say. I personally don't think it's a thing. There are people who would argue otherwise. But the majority of the time it's the other factors, and can usually be explained by the other factors rather than thinking your metabolism has slowed down.
That's a great question, really, really good. It is such a hot topic at the moment, is that aspect of that metabolic slowdown, so it's a really good question.
And in prep as well, like when you're really dieting, it does happen because you feel colder, you don't fidget as much, your toes might go very cold, your fingers go very cold. So your body does naturally go, actually, I'm not going to go to a hotter temperature. It does happen, and you do just become very, very lethargic in general. The way you walk becomes very different. You walk almost like a zombie rather than like a human being, and that's your body just slowing down slightly. But it is reversible. As soon as you start eating more food again, it comes back.
More questions to Dan? Yeah, we've got a question over here.
So the emphasis for your concept is weight loss. Is it the same sort of concept for gaining?
Exactly, yeah. So exactly the same way as that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, is we still use that data. So what happens when you start eating more food to try and gain muscle mass is you start moving around more, because your body naturally goes, I've got all this energy, I can actually move more. So what you might do is you might go, right, I'm going to increase my food 200 calories and not gain any weight. Steve does it all the time. Eats a little bit more food and doesn't gain any weight. He has to eat a lot more food to gain any weight. I had to do it. By tracking all the data, I managed to get my intake up to about 3,700 calories a day, and that's when I started gaining weight. But at about 3,300, I don't gain anything. But you'd think that would be a surplus, but sometimes what happens is you increase this side of it, and this bit goes up as well. So actually you're just at maintenance again. So just the same as when you diet, you move around less. When you eat more food, you move around more. So you have to go above and beyond sometimes what you think, which is why a common thing with people who can't gain muscle, and people say to you, oh, you're just not eating enough, and you're like, no, I'm eating loads, you're probably not eating enough. And it's hard to believe me, it's hard because I struggle with it as much as anyone.
Yeah, we know you do that.
Like last night, I was useless trying to eat dinner, trying to chow it down, because your body's telling you it doesn't really want to do it. Just like when you diet, you don't really want to give it your body fat, you've got to fight it a little bit. It's exactly the same the other way.
Your daughter Isabel, 18 months old, got a bigger appetite than you do.
Yeah.
So anyway, more questions for Dan. Any myths that you might be concerned that you want to sort of answer? Let's get them busted. So the question was, does timing of food matter?
So timing of food is an interesting one. Let me go back. So again, in terms of priorities, once you've got all those things nailed and sorted, I would argue there comes a point where it does become important to certain individuals at certain times. And I experienced this myself. So I'm there going, right, it's all about what I eat over the week. As long as over the week I'm losing weight, I'm okay. My daily intake's on point, I'm all good, and I'm making sure I get enough fruits and veggies and all that sort of stuff. And I was training with Steve, and he said, Dan, you're training like shit. You're useless in the gym. I was like, oh, I'm eating all my food, blah, blah, blah. And it's because I used to save all my food for the evening so that I could have a big meal at night. And he said to me, you need to eat more carbs before you train so you can train properly. All I did was move my carbs to before I trained, most of them. And I started training so much more intensity, so much more purpose. So yeah, it does make a difference, but you have to have everything else on point first. Worrying about timing before you're worrying about how much food you're eating over a week isn't going to be useful. But once you've got that other stuff sorted, I would say yes, it is important. It's just about the hierarchy, about where it sits.
And I mean, Dan only introduced that literally 6 weeks before his show, so he achieved so much even before he started to really consider that, and it actually became a factor. We had a great question at the back, and it's related to do with this, and it was around the role of protein timing. So not calorie timing, but protein intake. Is there a benefit of maybe more meals? And again, in what sort of context? How much protein should someone aim for, and how frequently?
So protein intake is probably the one macronutrient that you actually need to consider timing before all the others. So a lot of people say as long as you hit your daily amount of protein, you'll be okay. And you probably will be okay. There's no doubting that. But you don't want to be okay, you want to be optimal. You want to do the best you can be. So the best thing to do is to break your protein intake down into roughly 4 to 5 even portions through the day with a space of between 3 to 5 hours in between each one, so that you can maximize protein synthesis. That's the whole point of what we do, building muscle tissue, is that we want to spike that as much as possible. So what I tend to go with most of my clients is that's the first macronutrient I will talk about timing properly. And it usually comes in when they talk about their daily intake. I'll start saying to them, actually now you need to consider each meal needs to have, and I go with, this is just my preferences, it's about half a gram of protein per kilo of body weight at each meal. That suits most people. So for me, 80 kilos, 40 grams of protein each meal, 5 times a day, about 200 grams of protein. And if you do the maths on that, it's around 2 to 2.5 grams per kilo of body weight, which is pretty good for most people. That's going to cover all your bases. I wouldn't go too much lower than 2 grams per kilo because it doesn't leave you much room for spreading it out. And you can go up to about 3 grams. Some people go even higher, 3.5 grams with no ill effects at all. So again, for me at 80 kilos, I don't go below 160, and my max might be 240. It's around that mark. But with protein, I would definitely make sure that you split it evenly through the day as much as possible, and about 4 to 5 servings, depending on your lifestyle and your ability to do that.
The questions, great. These are brilliant questions. Keep them coming.
Do sweeteners affect fat loss?
Do sweeteners affect fat loss? Controversial. No, it's a great question.
No, they don't. No, they don't. There's not really much more to say on that. But there's sweeteners in BCAA drinks, and a lot of people who would say don't have sweeteners or sugar, they'll drink BCAA drinks all day long. It's just a bit of a... everyone on that picture who got that lean had sweeteners in their diet. Whey protein's got sweeteners in it.
The real question is it diet coke or Coca-Cola? that's the normal baby, surely.
Pepsi Max every day.
Okay, another question here. So the question is, should you devise your macronutrient intake or percentage based on your body type, like being an ectomorph typically, or maybe like a mesomorph or an endomorph? Great question. It's something that's obviously commonly thought about, so let's get Dan's opinion.
The short answer is no. And the reason for that is, I'm going to pick on Emil there. Emil, stand up. So, Emil is a mesomorph, right? But I've also seen pictures of Emil as an ectomorph. I've seen them. Like he's not always been like that. But it doesn't make a difference. And endomorphic as well. So, at what point you sit on that scale changes based on how much body fat you've got, and how much you eat, and how much you've ingested. Now, I've got pictures of myself the same, that you'd probably say the same. So no, it doesn't make any difference at all. There's no evidence, there's no research to show that makes any difference at all.
What's a more typical rationale for someone who might be typically might look like an ectomorph? So an ectomorph, is commonly thought to be someone that is tall and thin. So I would have fell into that category, and I still probably do now. I probably look like one with minimal gains. So why would I look like that?
So what tends to happen is endomorphs tend to be people who you consider don't move around all that much. They probably don't exercise all that much. They probably spend a lot of time sat down, not doing a lot. Probably don't have very high NEAT. Probably have a slightly lower BMR than most people potentially. And an ectomorph would have a bit higher BMR, but actually they probably just exercise a lot more, fidget a lot more, move around a lot more. So naturally they look thinner and slimmer because their body is using up those calories to do that movement they need to do. And a mesomorph probably lifts, and if they don't, they maybe have like a manual labour job. A lot of manual labourers potentially are mesomorphic, but they're moving heavy things regularly, and that's probably why they look that way. And genetics plays a huge factor. Some people at a school I went with were just born with six packs and big shoulders. Hated them. I absolutely hated them. But some of us have to work very, very hard for having this mesomorphic look, and it's not natural. We weren't born with it. So you can change your body type. So it does. So why would you base a diet around that? Because it's changeable. It's not inherent to you. There's no evidence to show that it's worth doing.
If you're stalling with like cutting, would you introduce cardio first or lower cardio?
So the question was, if your weight loss stalls, so if you stop losing weight or getting leaner, do you put in more cardio or do you cut calories?
It would totally depend on your preference, for one. It would depend on how much cardio you're already doing, where your food is currently at. So again, going back to all that data, right? Once you have the data, if you're on 2,000 calories a day, you're losing weight and not doing any cardio, I'd give you the option. I'd say, well, what would you rather do? Because ultimately, the thing you can stick to and adhere to is going to get you better results, right? If I say to you, you're going to do 1,000 calories of cardio, and you say, I'm really busy, I only go to the gym 5 times a week, I can't fit it in, I'll just go, well, maybe we need to eat less food. That's probably more likely what would happen. Now, in terms of what would I prefer, for myself, I always prefer cutting food rather than doing extra cardio, as a preference. Some of those are different. Some of those would rather do cardio. So it's very, very individual. There will come a point where you can't do much more in terms of dropping calories or increasing cardio. You just have to let it do its job. And then it comes back down to NEAT, right? It comes down to steps. So it could be that you're doing an hour cardio a day, your calories at 1,200. Sorry, Frankie. And we just have to go, look, you just have to move more. You have to do more steps. You just have to be more active. And that's what generally happens when you're in prep, is you just start moving less. You sit down more, you don't stand up. All those little things that might sound really stupid, over the course of 10 weeks can make a huge, huge difference. But it does come down to personal preference.
Great question. Probably time for one more. Okay, I've got a question just to finish it off. Is there anything that can affect fat loss? So is it like certain hormones that might be out of whack or something like that? Could it be stress? Is there anything that can stop weight loss?
Outside of a clinical setting, not really. Because when it comes to fat loss, we need certain hormones to perform that job. So cortisol is a catabolic hormone and is required to break down fat tissue. So we need cortisol to be present, right?
So that's the stress hormone.
That's the stress hormone. Now, when it comes to losing weight, losing body fat, if you have chronically high or higher levels of cortisol, you will retain weight, but it's just going to be water retention. Because it interferes with other hormones like aldosterone, which again regulates the water in your body, but you'll still be losing body fat if you're in a calorie deficit. So you don't have to worry if the weight isn't moving, but like I said before in the pictures, you're looking leaner, it doesn't make a difference.
And is that sometimes why you get a sudden whoosh and a massive drop in weight some weeks because you lose that water weight?
So Mike's a great case study. So Mike was, we always talk about this story because it's actually very, very relevant, is that Mike, when he was in competition prep, gained 3 kilos in a week. And Mike was stressing that he'd gained fat. And Steve said to him, and we all said, what you need to do is increase your food a little bit and stop training for a week. And he was like, are you sure? Oh no, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, that's what you need to do. All of a sudden you increase your calories, you stop training, cortisol comes down a little bit, and all of a sudden you just get this massive whoosh, as you called it. Water just goes, all of a sudden he's back to where he was again, his weight's dropped.
Because all those weeks when Mike essentially was actually gaining weight, he was still losing body fat. So as soon as we changed that, suddenly we saw that result that he was after, which was a bit of a gamble, but one that certainly paid off. So Dan, guys, I'm hoping you give Dan a big round of applause. That was absolutely fantastic.